Hey everyone, welcome back to the Joomla Sites conference. I'm Steve Burge, and I'm your host for 3 days of the conference. We're about halfway through now, and I'm delighted to welcome SD from the Chicago area for this presentation. SD is a really enthusiastic Joomla volunteer and runs Joomla Day Chicago, which is coming back again next year. It's one of the bigger Joomla days in the United States. SD, I'm delighted you're able to join us today.
Thanks, Steve. That was so nice. I'd like to thank everybody for taking time out to talk about how to create self-maintainer sites that clients love to update. So a little bit about me. I've been doing technology for over 20 years. I feel really old saying that, but it's true. I now run a company called Danico Enterprises that is specializing in web and marketing solutions, and we are located outside of the Chicago Loop area. I am, in addition to being the Chicago Joomla Day coordinator, I am also the user group lead, and I have been for the last few years. Just recently, well, in the last couple of years, I've become an adjunct professor at DePaul University, and I love learning how people use the different technologies to solve their problems. And so if you have any ideas or anything like that, or you want to jump in and speak at our groups, my contact information is listed there. So one of the things that has prevailed with my career is that I always wanted to help users be more involved in the creation and maintenance of their websites. I started out in client-server applications, and I don't know if anyone knows what those are, but basically it's a lot of coding. And part of what I ended up doing was working more on the client side and how they interacted with the sites and how developers developed them became an issue because developers like to get in there and create all these fabulous solutions, but then the end users just can't figure out how to interact with them. That set of activities morphed into me working on SharePoint sites, which are the collaboration platform provided by Microsoft. And again, I was in the middle between end users and developers, helping them translate to each other. Throughout that time, my one focus was to enable end users to be able to participate on their department's intranet sites, their public-facing websites, and any personal projects they may have had. The goal was so that they had no fear in adding content, that's text and images, that would harm the site's look and feel. Because often you spend a lot of time focusing on making it look just so, only to mess it up the next time you add content. So I've always been developing and designing processes and solutions that make it easier. So why do I create self-maintainer sites? I get this question all the time because people look at me and say, well, your company is built to design, develop, and maintain websites. Well, we all know that search engines and the ever-present audience, the people that we want to buy our products and services, like it when we keep our sites up to date. So by empowering, enabling, and encouraging clients to participate in the solution, that being keeping the content current, it fosters a partnerships, lessens the questions as to why a site may not be getting the desired activity or traffic, and it helps them be more involved overall. But who exactly is a self-maintainer? Now, I use this phrase, not really sure where I got it from, but my working definition is that it is a person that is an end user, a client, an intern, a business owner, a marketing professional, or some other person that interacts with the site that most likely has little to no tech skills like HTML or CSS, but has a story that they want to share with others through their website. This person will not be doing backups, most likely. They will not be updating extensions, and they will not be updating Joomla. They'll just leave that to you, the professional, the person that helps them get from point A to point B. My friend always says to me that she doesn't really want to know how the magic happens. She just wants to know that when she pushes the button or adds her content or does whatever, that it happens, and when it's done, the site is as beautiful as the day that it was delivered to her. So self-maintainer sites, like CMSs, are not fit for every solution. There is no one size fit all. What I found is that nonprofit organizations are a good fit for the self-maintainer site. Often there are multiple content creators responsible for different areas of the site. And as you may know, nonprofits tend to be understaffed. And so making it easy for them to get their message out to their constituency, to the people that they serve, the community, whatever, makes them a good fit for a self-maintainer website. A new business that is just starting out but has a plan for growth often is a good candidate for a self-maintainer website. They want to grow into it. Sometimes the DIY CMSs, are not a good fit because they'll just have to change in 6 to 9 to 12 months. And they rather start out with something that will grow with them for a little while. And so a self-maintainer Joomla site can often be that solution. So how do you get started making a self-maintainer website? Basically, you start like you would any other site. You get to know the project, the client, the goals, the reasons behind why they want to build a site in the first place. Once you understand those reasons and you set a plan for how you're going to implement the site, you then can work with your designer if it's not you, but if it is you, all the better, on how you're going to present their ideas, their products, their services to the world. At that point, you can discuss how that back end is going to look, how the user, the content creator, will interact with it to add the content that they are trying to share. What would their workflow be? What are some of their common tasks? When you're doing this, there are some things to consider with your development. For the most part, all of you, I don't know you, but I'm guessing all of you follow some of the best practices out there on how to develop your Joomla website. But there are some things that you may have to reconsider based on the common tasks that you have already identified. Some of the things that we look at is limiting the number of direct edit custom modules that are a part of the commonly updated content. Meaning, like if you're using a custom module to display data in a certain position on a certain page that they will update on a monthly basis or weekly basis or whatever, and they are a little skittish about going in and having to find that module and to edit that module, you might want to create an article that is ingested or embedded or whatever word it means to you in that module so that the client only deals with articles. Joomla has a great facility for producing content using their articles. Leverage that as much as possible. When you're implementing that design that we talked about earlier, sometimes page builders help, sometimes they don't. But whatever you end up using, if you find yourself in a situation where implementing a design causes a hardship for the end user to update, have a conversation with them. Talk to them about the different ways that you could possibly implement that design and whether or not it affects how they update the site. Give them a chance to weigh in on their comfort level. Sometimes they'll say, it's fine the way it is. I'll learn how to do it with some guidance from you. They'll say, no, we need to change it. I don't want to be bothered. They may come back and say, you know what? Go ahead and do it that way. And that's just something that will add to your ongoing maintenance. This also assumes that you have an arrangement with them where you will be doing that ongoing maintenance for the heavy lifting stuff like updating the extensions, updating Joomla, and keeping it safe overall. We talked earlier about identifying the common site updates. We want to make sure that we make those easy. We want them to be able to add that content, to share those stories on a regular basis. One of the things that clients often ask is, how do they get more traffic? Well, we all know that your audience loves it when you create new ideas out there for them to like, share, and otherwise interact with. So do search engines. So make it easier for them to do those updates. We talked about eliminating the fear. And so we have to get in there and say, okay, how can I do this for them? There are some tools and techniques that I like to use. And so I want to share those with you. The tools that I like to use, number one is the Joomla core. I use as much of Joomla core as I can, especially the articles. Those of you who have clients who may be coming from WordPress or other CMSs who are accustomed to creating a single type of content, like a post or something like that, introducing them to Joomla articles and the power that they have behind them usually goes pretty well once they get past that initial apprehension. The next thing I like to use is Joomla custom fields. I don't know if any of you guys were up at 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time to sit in on Carlos's session on Joomla custom fields. I rely heavily on those. What I like to do with them is to create what I call content entry forms, where we have identified the key concepts that someone would like to publish in a specific category. We create custom fields based on those categories. So when they go in, they go to an article, they select that category, and the field prompts are there for them so that they just fill in the blanks. We use Gantry 5, love Gantry, and Particles to help place that content on the site. We like to use Articles Anywhere, again, because we want them to focus on using articles and not having to figure out how to get through modules to find the right module. Now, in some cases, we still have to do that, but we try to limit the amount of work that they have to do within modules. The other part of Carlos's session this morning, which made me extremely happy to see, was easy layouts. If you're not familiar with that extension, it allows you to create Joomla overrides without having to do the PHP code. I love using them for that fact because a lot of times a client will say, oh, I want it to look this way. And you'll do the coding to make it look that way. And then, oh, well, really I want it this other way. And you'll spend a lot of time creating those overrides. Whereas if you're using the extension Easy Layouts, you drag and drop them. So as they figure out what it is they want, despite having a plan, you can spend less time coding it. And then one of everyone's favorite is JCE because it gives them an environment that is more comforting to them because it looks a little bit like their favorite word processor. So I thought it might be helpful if I kind of walk you at a high level through a use case that we are in the process of implementing. The site is not yet live, and so I'm kind of camouflaging some of the information so the client's not worried about me sharing this information ahead of time. So the use case is adding a staff member, keeping the data description and look and feel consistent, as well as automatically adding it to a menu item. The client had some anxiety about creating new staff member profiles. In their business, those profiles change quickly. They can add and remove, dozens every couple of weeks. And they were concerned about making sure that when they did this, that it, A, did not take forever, B, that the information would display consistently, and C, they were having trouble figuring out how to add it to a menu item. So we kind of took care of all three of those things, and I'm going to show you how. Well, sort of. We started by creating custom fields. I told you I love them, and I do. We created field groups, one for the office and one for the physician. As you can tell, the staff listing is for a medical group. So we needed to be able to track information from that office, such as their hours, where they're located. And then we have a section where we are using, you probably can't see it because it's really tiny, but down here, there is a custom field called system related articles, where we give them a box where they can select the staff that's at that office. It makes it really easy for them. We also needed to do custom fields for the actual staff member, their name, the specialization, the things they do. They wanted to add in some special interests, a quote, various information like that. So we created the groups, we created the custom fields. Next, we wanted to create that layout. What I'm showing you here is one of the layouts that we have using easy layouts. This particular project, we have about 12 different layouts. If you're not familiar with how to use easy layouts, you can do it on multiple levels, from the intro articles in a blog to the actual detail page and other variations. We are using it to do what this is called the single detail for the article, so that once they click into the article that they have created for that staff member's profile, this is how we've determined it will lay out. When you look at the screen, you see various information. So this is a custom field. We've also included our images. We've included the standard Joomla article body and the article title. There are various layouts you can use, output frameworks, things of that nature that you can set over here. I think Carlos did a better job of explaining easy layouts than I'm doing at the moment. I just know that it is a super powerful tool for us to be able to lay out that information in a way that meets the client's expectation. So that layout produced this article. Each one of these fields is placed here based on how we did the easy layouts. We have the column here and the column there where you see the full image and the locations, and then all of the other fields here. Easy layouts also allows you to apply classes and styling and different things like that within the layout, so that you can make sure that they work well for you. I enjoy it quite a lot. The next thing we did after we did that is one of the items in our use case was to be able to auto-gen menu items, so that they didn't have to take that extra step of, after they create the article, going into the menu manager and creating an item. This is where we are leveraging Regular Labs Articles Anywhere. They recently, well, it's probably a few months now, came out with a new release that made this possible, where we are able to do filtering and sorting based on custom fields. We did a little bit of styling here because they wanted to have dividers between the information. And so now whenever they create an article, as long as they have it in the category of staff, it will automatically place it in the menu item. The last thing that we did was we created what we call our site administrator page. On this page, we have the common tasks, and then we have how-tos. These how-tos are a mixture of text, images, and videos that help remind them when they come in to perform our common tasks, how they do them. Oftentimes there's a gap in between and lots of daily activity that's not web related, and they forget. We also include things like how to back up a site, even though most of the time they don't do it. But these common tasks here will actually open up into the article. So for instance, using the Joomla Create Article menu item, for each of these, they will automatically set that category, which will open up those custom fields, and then they can go in and enter in their information. We also give them the login to the administrative panel, because some things just are easier to do that way. And on there, I apologize, I don't have a picture of it, but on there, we also create a module that is on that control panel that reminds them of how to do some quick basic tasks. Like it will say, if you're adding a provider, create an article and set the category to this. And it will also link them back to the help documents that we have made available to them. As with all of our solutions, we also put on here how to get help if they get stuck. Because we want them to not feel that we've let them out there on their own, that they can always come back to us for help. So In preparing for this, my father asked me a very interesting question. My dad is kind of a techie and he likes to tinker with things. And so his question was, by doing self-maintainer sites, does it mean that my projects are fewer, smaller, lower budget, whatever? And my answer to him was no, because what we end up doing is because we have created a collaborative partnership with our clients, they see us as part of their overall marketing solution. And so as they are working on new campaigns, new products, modifying existing products, wanting to share new things about their organization, they actually interact with us more. We often see that they'll go and they say, you know what? We just want you to handle things because this is what we want to do. We're so focused on our new business or whatever. I find that our nonprofits, they will have, several layers of self-maintainers that are helping to keep that content up to date. And what they do is they have entered into quarterly contracts with us to come in, evaluate how they're doing, make sure the site's up to date and safe and things like that. And then from there, they become Joomla fans and they start to tell others. And so we would get referrals to people who say, oh, I talked to so-and-so and they think it's awesome what you've done for them. Can you do that for us? So for me, the bottom line is not affected at all, as maybe better, I guess. But it also gives us a sense of, what's the word? Because I enjoy helping others learn Joomla and help others grow their business and help others just help. It helps in that sense and gives me a sense of, I guess, pride that people are liking what we do. They're sharing what we do. They are growing within their business, their Joomla site, and things of that nature. So with that, I want to invite each and every one of you to reach out to me and tell me what ways, something like this would help you or ways that you think I could do it different or better. If you have questions about how we've done it and want to see it in more detail, I would love to chat with you about it. But right now, that's all I have. I'm just going to open it up for questions.
So, SD, I'll get the ball rolling with a question. And this is one I had actually been on my mind from an earlier presentation from Peter Martin, who talked about all the different ways that he customized the Joomla admin interface for customers. But have you considered different admin templates or any radical overhauls to the Joomla admin? Or do you just try and use the Joomla core and keep things as simple as possible?
We have actually tried some of the templates. We've also tried different page builders and things like that. And what we have found, at least with our current user base, they still felt overwhelmed. And so we had to keep simplifying things for them. Personally, I'm looking forward to Joomla 4 because one of the things I want to explore is the dashboard customizations that you can do. And if that can help us make these even better. But I'm not sure. I'm still playing with those.
Okay, we have a great question from Dorothy. Do you keep your users on the front end of the site or do you give them admin access?
I have two levels of users. Majority of them we keep them on the front end. They have access to the back end. They don't use it because it scares them. So we have a couple of people or a couple of situations where they have access, they interact with it quite well, they have little to no issues with it. Others prefer if we just keep them on the front end.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions about particular extensions, about whether you'd recommend them, about whether your customers find them usable. Mm-hmm. K2.
With the introduction of custom fields, we have moved away from K2 and use custom fields.
Okay, I guess that was originally the main selling point of K2.
Yeah.
And it became a little redundant with the introduction of custom fields in the core. Community Builder.
I have not used Community Builder in a very long time. The situation where we were using Community Builder, we kept having integration issues with some of the other extensions on the site. they would not talk well consistently. So we started using Joomla profiles, and they've added some additional fields in the core for that, and then using custom fields to build out that profile.
Cool. Page builders in general. You've talked quite a lot about keeping close to the core, but I know customers are often eyeing the ability to do drag and drop layouts. How do you approach using page builders for your customers?
Well, we use Gantry5, which some consider a sort of page builder, and we can do a lot within that. We have done projects where we've used like SP Page Builder and things like that. Generally, our customers are excited about it in the beginning, and then it wanes and they just want us to handle it. And if we're going to handle it, we're going to use Gantry in the core as much as possible.
Oh, okay. So page builders in general tend to fail the self-maintenance test.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. I was just about to wrap up and then one more question. Okay. From Arturo, how do you include training within your development service? So he's in Mexico where the market is a little bit hard and the owners don't necessarily want to pay for the training or maintenance. Do you normally try and include training where you sit down with the customer for some hours and get them up and running?
I do. So we include training in every one of our development projects, even if it's just to train them on how to back up and update extensions. We do a little bit more training, well, a lot more training when we're talking with self-maintainers who want to do more. So what we tell them is that if they are wanting to not have a site that is compromised or anything like that, it's important that they learn these basics. And so built right into our development cycle, right before we release, we have a training session with the key site administrators and then the content creators. We do it in separate sessions because we don't want to confuse the content creators, because oftentimes they don't have any technical skills and are easily overwhelmed. But we do go through, and then for the first 30 days, we also provide, like, I don't want to call it a guarantee or whatever, but we basically check in with them during that 30-day period. Are you having trouble? Have you tried this yet? What can we help you with? And then we provide them with a guide, a written guide. Yes, we do write up guides that are not electronic because sometimes you can't get into your site to get to it. But we also put that information within their site. And for the more complex stuff, we might do a small video for them.
One question about the front end access that we talked about. Someone asking if you add any kind of authentication or protection for the logins. Do you set up two-factor authentication or other systems to keep the site safe? We
do some ACL work. We have discussed two-factor authentication with our clients. They often feel that it is too complicated. So we rely heavily on how we do our ACL, and we try not to, and we don't put anything sensitive access from the front. And you have to log into the site and be in a specific group in order to see the information. What percentage of the people who you set up with a self-maintainer option actually go through with it, do you think? So you've taken us through all the different steps and the different ways you can help people get up and running. How successful is it on average? So we have basically, I'm trying to do math in my head, I would say we have a 75 to 80% success rate. And for me, that success rate means that they're comfortable going in and updating their content. They're doing it on a regular basis. And they, are only coming to us for the bigger things. That 20 to 25% is they go in, they do it a few times, and they have decided it's either I just want you to do it, and they start sending us their content to update, or they're just not interested anymore. And that happens, with probably 10% of them, they'll be all gung-ho to get their site up, and once it's up and running, they kind of like, oh, why do I need to update it, even though they know they should. One person is asking about your experience with Gantry.
They've had quite a few bugs and problems when updating their PHP versions. Have you found Gantry to be a fairly smooth and bug-free experience, or have you had some issues too?
The only issues I've had with Gantry is if we have implemented a solution on top of that that is not friendly to that next level of PHP.
Okay, so not Rocket Theme's fault. Cool.
Nope.
Okay, I'm asking questions as they come in. Well, that was wonderful. Thank you so much, SD.
Oh, thank you.